Here we go. Episode 8 of the Run the Tibby podcast. 3 hosts, Steven Diaz, TJ Tibbs, Harry Hazen, here to discuss all things basketball through a training and coaching perspective. Today, we are setting it off with a question we got in our DMs from Rich Anderson, the head coach at Erasmus Hall. So I'm going to read the DM. Really interesting topic. He says, you guys should touch on in the podcast. How do you determine whether a player is actually getting better? Is it skill level, game performance, the statistics, eye test? This will be interesting because all these things contradict each other in some ways. And I will set it off with my take. How do you determine a player is getting better? So the 3 F's to getting better, 3 F's. And in this order, very important.
Spelling.
Here we go.
The feel, no, we're not, but no spelling. Feel, film, facts. 3 F's. We keeping it simple. We don't got to think too much. Tibbs, okay? The feel. The most important thing is that a player can feel themselves getting better, feel themselves reading the situations that they're in, if you're working on a move or if you're working on anything. So if you're a trainer and a kid is working on a one dribble pull up, if they can feel comfortable doing it in a game, if they can recognize the situation where they need to do it in a game, that is step 1. And obviously you can tell their feel by watching them do it. You could tell when a player feels uncomfortable doing something. Second thing is the film. Are they getting good ones in games? If they've developed a feel already, are they getting good ones in games? Or is it just terrible shots? Is it quick enough? Is it effective enough? Whatever they're doing, does it look good on film? And then once those 2 are knocked out, the facts. So the numbers. Obviously, once the feel is down and the film looks good, then the facts will start to get better. The numbers will start to go up. And that's how you know all three of those will show improvement. So you guys want to give your take?
I like to add a 4th F, which is feedback. Which is feedback. I think it's important to go and to make sure you're getting feedback from somebody that you trust, somebody who has seen your stages of development, whether it be your game overall, a move, a certain skill, and to try to get some objective feedback. Somebody who doesn't have any skin in the game, if possible. Somebody who does have skin in the game, but is just going to be really, really truthful to you. I think the more people that can give you feedback, whether you know them or not, whether you don't know them, if more people are saying the same thing, then odds are that it's probably true. If you go to one person and they tell you, man, you're the best player on Staten Island, that's awesome. But I mean, it's way different if 500 people are telling you the best player on Staten Island. You're probably the best player on Staten Island. So I think it's important. I think I liked all the things that you said, but I think a big thing is having multiple eyes on your games. And then for me, it's what is measurable about what you're doing, because you need to take whatever skill your entire game, from working out to practice scenario. And I don't necessarily mean a team practice, just something that is live, that there's some money on the table, but all of the money is not on the table. You can make mistakes in practice without all the money being blown. And then you got to go to a game situation, because you can practice things as much as possible, but if you're not ready to use it in the game, then you can't properly evaluate it, because that is when you know that you're getting better at something, when you can break it down in the game. And then more than breaking it down in the game, I think it's about being efficient with that skill. So putting something into the game, I think that's a big step. But then when you can do it, let's just say like an offhand hook pass, so a left hand for most people, and you break it out in the game, that's awesome. But can you do that efficiently without turning it over? Can you hit somebody on time and on target? And can you do it more than one random time? Because I'm sure the situation comes up more than one time. So, those are big things for me.
This is such a hard question to answer because it's like I'm sure when I say we, I mean all three of us. I'm sure we have worked out kids and seen them improve at the things we're working out to improve, right? So whether we're working on, oh, you need to get a cross jab, you need to learn how to do that, or okay, let's get your one dribble pull up footwork down. Like at the end of the day, if you work on something a decent amount, especially if it's a one-on-one workout, you're gonna get it. You know what I mean? Or if you put up enough free throws, your percentage in a gym by yourself is gonna improve. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's pretty easy to improve by yourself in workouts. And then some kids who are really great workout kids, some of the best workout kids I've ever seen, especially when it comes to like ball handling, dribbling stuff, you get in a game and you just can't do it. So I almost want to say to what Tibbs you just said about what's measurable in terms of, I don't know, maybe you're charting somebody's shooting percentages over the course of multiple workouts. At the end of the day, like I don't want to say that shit doesn't matter, but the best basketball players using the word feel in like a different sense, the IQ version of the word feel is really almost all that matters and is almost always like that telltale sign of did you get better at basketball? You know what I mean? Like I feel like if I were to watch somebody play, you know, once a year, and how would I know that they're getting better? I'm not really going to know if you got better if you just got hot one game. You know what I mean? Because what if you just got hot? The next game, you could literally miss all those shots. I feel like how efficient you are when you move on a court, and more specifically, I feel like the passes that you're making are almost always a telltale sign of like, are you good? Just in general, are you good? But if the level of passing that you're able to deliver is like improving, I think that's usually like the one telltale sign of like, oh, this kid's getting better. Because that means you understand the entire court. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm like kind of all over the place with that thought, but I just feel like it's really hard to measure statistically improvement, if that makes sense.
No, I disagree. I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Because although shooting in a gym by yourself doesn't directly translate to a game because there's so many other variables, when you shoot in a gym by yourself, it's pretty much you, ball, maybe a passer, and you're just shooting. There's nothing. Yeah. There's no fatigue. There's no, all right, is this a bad pass? There's no closeout. There's no all these other variables that happen in the game. But I would argue that it's much harder for you to get to that point in a game to shoot better, right? Because like I agree that shooting 80% in the workout on the gun doesn't directly correlate to shooting 40% in the gym. Like that's not it. I agree. But watching somebody go from shooting 50% by yourself on threes to shooting 55%, to shooting 60%, to shooting 65% will correlate to you shooting better in a game. I think that's just a fact. And I think that's undeniable. There is no like, well, if you shoot 75% with nobody in the gym, you're going to shoot at least 35%. No, there's a lot of other things that come. How are you actually getting your shots? Where are you getting your shots from? There's a lot of those things. But just to take catch and shoot, if you're shooting 80% unguarded, catch and shoot in a workout, I believe that person, regardless of what it is, when they get that shot, and if they get it often, they're going to shoot a pretty high percentage, or at least higher than if they weren't shooting 80% unguarded in the gym, if that makes sense.
I think that as you go up levels and levels, like the window closes on that, right? Like I think that if you just work on catch and shoot and you're shooting really well in the gym, that doesn't, like you said, like it doesn't necessarily mean one thing or the other. But as you go up levels and levels, like I feel like the level eventually catches up to you, and it's why you can't work on just one thing in the gym, because I'm sure shooting 80% is going to take a lot of your time in a workout. You need to be able to mix it up and throw in some other things and not just work on that. But it goes into, I feel like trainers should be working on the feel the feel aspect, like that's what we're trying to cultivate in all our workouts, right? Like developing the feel, teaching footwork, teaching reads, the binary reads, something we talked about last podcast. But what is the best way to teach feel? Is it through hard skills like footwork or ball handling, or is it through soft skills like reads and things like that?
I personally think it's all soft skill based. I know you brought out a whole book to refute that point, but I kind of thought about that just after the fact.
What's the name of the book, Harry?
Is it Little Book of Talent? Is that what it's called?
You're right.
Let's go. Didn't read it at all though. That book's been in my nightmares. No. I completely forgot the question. What are we talking about?
Soft skills.
I gotta think about a book and I lose my mind. Yes, no, soft skills. I think just because you see so many guys, and I don't even know if I said that. I think I said this to you, Steve, just kind of after the fact of some of the best kids I've seen at the hard skills. Like, all right, let's get into this 2-ball crossover stuff. You know, I've seen kids that are going back to the big, developing a big to be a guard comparison. I've literally seen 6'10" kids that can do everything better than anybody I've seen. You know, I'm thinking about just the first person that comes to mind is Rich Springs, because we met him when he was like in 9th grade, 10th grade, and there wasn't anything he couldn't do with 2 basketballs. You know what I mean? But at that same token, he still knew, yo, I got a long way to go. Let's keep working on this perimeter stuff. And the mental aspect in terms of just like kind of the flow that it takes to be pacing yourself on the perimeter like a guard is so much more difficult, and it's so much more important. You know what I mean? I swear to God, when I was at IMG, my first, I think it was like my 3rd week in, I got hurt. So I was just on the sideline with like a couple other kids who I hadn't seen play yet. And one of these kids was literally dribbling 3-4 basketballs at a time. And I'm like, yo, there's no way I'm going to play over this kid. This kid is nice. Gets on the court 2 weeks later and he sucks. It's just awful. You know what I mean? Like, so how at that point, if I just told you, yo, the best hard skill kid I've ever seen wasn't a good basketball player, you know, I don't know how you can tell me I'm wrong in my thinking there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And maybe it's a matter of philosophy. I mean, there's a place you need both, but it goes back, and I did a clinic last year on how to improve players at Brian Shea. Shout out to Brian Shea, big friend of all of us and big friend of the pod. But at his clinic, which I wish was going on again this year, it's the best clinic in the United States of America. I told people that we celebrate the process and the read more than the skill, especially when we know that they don't have that skill yet to use in a game. I
stole that from you in practices, by the way.
Oh, no problem.
I really like that.
And it's the biggest thing of just scoring things in a team practice, scoring things for the things that you're trying to teach and you're trying to get better at. So if you're trying to teach a kid how to make a one-handed pass with their left hand, and every time they turn it over, their team gets penalized, they're never going to go to it, and they're never going to do it because they want to win the game or they want to do things that are good for them. It's hard for kids to want to fail in front of people to understand that that's growing. So we have to change the way that we're teaching so that we can have that growth. We can stimulate that growth in our classrooms, which is the basketball court. And a big thing for me that is really important is I believe it's called the ladder of or the conscious competence ladder. And it's a really interesting concept, and not to bore people because you can just do your Googles and see what this is. It's 4 stages of knowing when somebody is good at the skill. And this is like the Bible to me. And the first stage is being unconsciously unskilled. So basically you're blissfully ignorant. You don't know that you don't have this skill. and you don't know that you need to learn this skill. It's just ignorance, just pure ignorance. Just like, no, I know I have this, or you just don't understand that you don't have it. The second stage of this is being consciously unskilled, which is, I know I do not have the skill. That's a huge step for somebody. That's a huge step, especially for me in a team aspect, because I'm constantly trying to get people to do the things that they can do very well and to not do the things that they can't do. So that's a big ego thing that you battle with. The third step is being consciously skilled, which is, I know I have the skill. I know this is my skill that I have. I know that I have it. I know I can use it. Ooh, I know I can do a left-hand pass. Boom, I'm going to the left. Oh, here's a chance to do this left-hand hook pass. It's thinking about the action and knowing that you can use that skill. And then the fourth stage, and what we're trying to get with everything that we're teaching, is being unconsciously skilled. We don't know that we have this skill, but we don't focus on it because it's so easy. So think of what, like, I compare it to breathing. How often do you think about breathing when you're out of breath, right? Throughout your day, you don't think about breathing. You don't think about blinking until something gets into your eye, and that's it. You all you're focused on is blinking for the next 30 seconds to a minute. You're just thinking about blinking, and then you just go back to life. So the goal is to do everything that we can to make our players unconsciously skilled. And that's when we can sit down and watch film and talk to each other, and you can see and talk to kids like, what were you thinking when you came through here? Coach, I just made this play. That's what you're looking for. That's when you know that they have it. And I think that's what we should be striving to do for each of the skills that we're trying to teach.
I have like 1.5 follow-up questions to that. So first one being, so would you say, when I think you see a lot of trainers now, just on social media and stuff, we kind of talked about this last podcast with like teaching NBA moves and reads. Like, do you think there's too much of people trying to teach things that a great player naturally does that you just can't teach? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And let me talk about that real quick. We talked about that last time, and I've had conversations with people about stacking skills, especially Kai. Shout out to him again. And I know that's a way that people teach things, like, here's this move, and then there's this other move, and you can do that. But the way I teach that and what I believe in, and I use Kyrie Irving. I watched Kyrie Irving's rookie year in the NBA. Like, I can tell you almost every single time he turned it over. I've watched it exclusively, and I still do to this day, because Kyrie, and I've never like heard him speak about this or talk about it, but whenever Kyrie, and he has arguably the best handle ever in the history of the game, whenever he makes his decision to go, no matter what moves he makes that none of us can make, none of us here sitting here, he makes his move to advance the ball forward. By the second dribble, he is either continuing to the rim or he's countering. And the biggest thing about counters is that it has to be unconscious, because you have to understand the read of that somebody is going to step in front of you to be able to counter. Us as mere mortals, our shoulder hits the guy's chest, and then we go to a counter, and then we make another move. But Kyrie, like the half a second before he's about to be cut off, he's making a counter. And that's off the second dribble. And I watch that, and I encourage kids all the time. They'll watch highlights from his, and he still does it, but more so in his rookie year, he had freedom to do whatever, and he was, they weren't that good. So it's not about being able to do those other things. I don't care if every time you go right, your counter is behind the back. What's more important is that you're countering precisely and efficiently. That's way more important, because when I played, I never went behind the back with my left hand. Never. I never used my left hand to go behind the back because I just wasn't that comfortable with it. But I went behind the back with my right hand all the time. That was one of my counters. So you have to understand your game. Of course, I strive to put that into my game, but I understood what my game was, and I wasn't able to make another move out of that cleanly. So I made my counters a step back, going left, or between the legs, so I could do something else. And I think those are the skills that are more important. We teach how to stack all those things, but then a kid gets into a game and it gets stopped, has to think, oh, I can do this, boom. And even if it's a half a second, it's too much. we're moving up into the levels of basketball.
Go ahead, Harry.
So my follow-up, and I kind of want Diaz to answer this. Are we shitty trainers? Because I feel like a lot of our workouts, if you're basing a workout off of a move that you see someone else do, you know what I mean? Like, is that okay? Let me rephrase. I think the part that is ridiculous is when you see workouts, or when you see when trainers like explain things that, okay, if I make this dribble here and he steps in front of my frame and I pull back and I see his hips are turned, I can get, like, I think that part is ridiculous because you're getting into such like a niche situation that, like, why are you even, you would almost be better off just doing it without explaining, because then you're just building the hard skill. You know what I mean? But
is that 5% times 1%?
Yes. Don't train to be a 0005. But so then is the way that we've run workouts up until now just wrong?
First of all, I think we've run workouts a lot of different ways. Like we've run a ton of workouts where it's just like, okay, we're only going to work like 5 minutes on a move, like a 1-on-0 on a move in a specific situation. And then we're going to play out of that situation. Like, first of all, I love doing workouts like that, especially with kids who are advanced, and we could challenge them defensively, give them certain reads, and they could, we could have conversations about the reads that they see and shit that they need to improve on, or whatever they're working on, because that's what always, listen, don't get me wrong. Like, we've definitely done some stupid shit, but I think we've covered our ass in terms of communication with the kid. I think something we've always done is talk to the kid about, you know, what are we trying to get better at? And that's, or what do coaches say they want to see from you at the next level? That's something that we've always done, no matter what we've done in the workout. And I think that some things, like maybe we shouldn't have done Harden into karaoke, into head fake, into this and that. Like, these counters on top of counters on top of counters are ridiculous. And in hindsight, I wish that we didn't do that. But
wow, this is like a Maury moment right now.
Yeah.
Listen, this is intervention.
I think it's so important that we take that. Harry and I take accountability on the things that we've done, because if we didn't, then we wouldn't be able to talk about the things that other people have done.
Yeah.
So we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and be like, damn, that sucked. We shouldn't have did that. And then, because that's the first step to us getting better. I mean, we're still relatively new in the game. So I think we've done a lot of stupid shit up to this point. I think that now we would do things a lot differently, but I think even though we were doing stupid shit, it's kind of highlighted in our brain. But in reality, we've done a lot of good shit that kind of like has weeded out the stupid shit. You know what I'm saying?
Bro, and that's why I love this, man, because it's a craft, man. Like, you just constantly find ways to get better, to reflect, to look back, to take the good stuff, to improve on it, to enhance stuff, you know, to look at things, to share things. That's why it's great, because we've been so immersed in the game for so long, from so many different viewpoints and perspectives. And now we get to sit here and, we have fun with this and throw some stuff around, but just get to talk hoops and like talk hoops with different people about different things, and then reevaluate things that we're currently doing, you know, constantly. There's a lot of times like I go into a practice and do something and like I tried that, but I don't know, I'll make this a little bit better, you know, throw it around the staff, or go to like a practice. Every time I go to a practice to recruit, I learn something. And I hate taking drills without knowing the ins and out. Like, what are your coaching points? What are your verbal cues? What are, you know, everything matters about a drill when you're trying to add anything. That's why, like, it's tough when I see trainers or coaches just replicating drills and the actions of the drills when you don't know the adjustments or the corrections or or any of those things. What are you exactly looking for? It's not just about the drill that's building the habit. It's about all these other things that you're building habits from. So, Harry, I don't know if I cut you off because I had a question after that, but I didn't know if I cut you off from your thought.
No, I was just going to say, just to quickly respond to Diaz, I think about some of the best workouts we've ran for kids that are more gamers. And let's be honest, I think if anyone here had a choice between am I really good in a workout or am I really good in a game, you'd probably want to be really good in a game.
Workout. Oh. Nah, but man, you can't get followers on TikTok by being good in games, but you can be by being good in workouts. So I'm going workout, baby.
Devil's advocate, but I think to that point, there's kids that we've worked out that have literally admitted like we've never had a trainer, or I kind of taught myself how to play basketball, and the best workouts for those kids have just been, yo, this is a situation we're going to do. We're going to guard you. We're just going to rep it out and figure it out, because you're going to end up not wasting, but it's going to take like 30 minutes for you to get that super specific footwork placement that you want out of that kid, where it might just be more beneficial for you to say, all right, we're going to put you in a ball screen and you got to get to this spot with me guarding you this way. Play. And they'll figure it out. And more often than not, they might just do the thing that you want them to do anyway. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
The first kid I think about when you say that is Jose Alvarado. Mm-hmm. Like working him out and trying to.
I love it.
It's so much fun. First of all, he's a great kid. Second of all, he was a kid that we worked out, and he was like, yo, I never had a trainer, this and that. Like we were talking before the workout, and we would try to do like all these very specific, hard skill things. And that was just not something he was comfortable with. But then when we play, he's unstoppable. Just like this just a basketball player with like the greatest amount of feel, that one of the best that I've ever seen. But like, that's a great example. Like he already does it unconsciously. Like, is it, I guess a good question to ask, like for a kid like that, who's just unconsciously that good, is it even worth it to work on the hard skills? I think it's worth it to work on some. I think I think shooting mechanics would be something to work on, but I don't think the specifics of his crossover,
the nuances of a half spin are not important.
I don't think the specifics of his crossover are important, because he's getting to that spot. However he does it, it don't matter how he does it. But
yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think the more that we can get closer to 50-50, the better we are. Because of our experiences and our philosophy and our background, there's a reason why we are more towards one end than the other with most things in life, right? But too much of things is not great, and too little of it is not great as well. So I don't think you're ever going to get to 50-50. And I can relate to Jose Alvarado, that story, because when I played, I wasn't good at those 2-ball drills at all. I couldn't do them at all. But I would tell people all the time, like, but take the ball from me on the court. Like, you're not going to. So I can't do any of those things well. I can't at all. And it frustrated me. But try to take the ball. But then Greg Civiletti, my man, when I was done playing and I was trying to, be a pro, he did that all the time, and he was really good at it. He was like, just do it, because it's going to help something. There's no way it's not going to help. So I spent time doing all those hard dribbling drills, the circus drills that I call them. And honestly, it made my ball handling tighter. It did. It made it tighter. It made me have better ball control. You know what I mean? I still had the things that I could do that was very soft skill driven, but it was a little bit tighter and sharper. And I was like, man, I wish I would have did this a little bit earlier. So I think finding a balance, right, and exposing, and I think when you find somebody that either hasn't really focused on the soft skills or hasn't really focused on the hard skills, I think that's marvelous if you can teach the thing that they don't have. And it's probably easier to teach the hard skills because you can see it, right? And we talked about this last podcast, but the soft skills are more, you have to teach it from a first person view to help them see it. So it's a little bit more difficult. It's easier to say, all right, 2-ball drills and do that. That's a little bit easier. So I think the more that we can try to get to the middle, and it's never going to be 50-50. That's why basketball is beautiful. Everybody is different. But I do think you should move closer to the middle of hard skills and soft skills.
Yeah. Just to stay on quickly, and then I'll let you ask your question. Just to stay on the topic of Jose. Jose is also a kid that when we're in the gym with him, he also recognizes that he needs those things. You know what I mean? I don't think any kid or just player in general, I shouldn't say kid. I don't think any player who's like him, borderline NBA on that like fringe level, is going to say, I don't need to work on anything other than my natural ability. You know what I mean? Like he recognizes, yo, I know if that's now that I'm thinking about it, that's the last time I worked him out. That's the thing he said to me. He's like, yo, if I get this, I'm going to be really good. So I agree with you. There is that balance. It's not unnecessary.
Yeah. And that goes to the point where we talk about going to multiple trainers and different things. If you can provide value to somebody, regardless of what it is, right? And I laugh all the time about all these props and there's somebody who uses the props in a very, very efficient way that it helps them and can provide value to that person. But everybody can't just copycat that stuff, because there's a reason why people do it. Like I said about the spelling, y'all laughed at me and all this stuff. But if we have a lot of thorough conversations about it, and it's like, hey, maybe I can use this to help with something that I do, and I can use it in my own way. You know, I wouldn't just go out and do it if I don't know the intricacies of it and the details of it. But, you know, I would love to throw things at the game. I can't just see something on Instagram or see something on Twitter and just go ahead and do that. You know, like coaches are known for that, for favoriting all these plays on Twitter of that's floating around and trying to put it in with their team. But there's a lot of reasons why those things work. Like you don't have a kid that can shoot, then somebody's just standing in the paint and blowing up that wonderful backdoor action you have. Like all that stuff matters. But, you know, before we get to the end, I want to ask this question. How do you feel when you're talking about judging people getting better? How do you feel about increased minutes equaling increased production? So just to give an example, right? Because I forget Harry is illiterate in 50 states. Kid's a sophomore in high school, plays 7 minutes a game on his varsity team, averages 2 points a game, right? People graduate next year. He plays 25 minutes a game and scores 10 points a game. Did he get better? Is that proof that he got better? Because I see it all the time from like college programs posting like graphics of like, oh, improvement and development, and kid averaged 4 points last year, averaged 10 points this year, but kid played 5 minutes last year and now played 25. So how do you guard against that? How do you guard against people thinking that they got better because they got increased time?
I hate what I'm about to say, so I don't even want to say it.
Oh boy.
Nah, Tim's is gonna kill me. I think to your example, I think back to like when I was a sophomore in high school and I didn't really play that much. And then when I was a junior, a lot of people graduated and I had to start. And I went from not playing to averaging like 16. And my confidence, my confidence was a lot higher. One, just because I was playing more. Two, because I knew I could make more mistakes and I was never coming out the game. So but at the same token, I can't really, a lot of people would say to me, yo, you got a lot better. And I would say to them, like, I think I've always kind of just been the same. Like I couldn't point to one particular skill and say, yeah, I got so much better at this, and this is why I'm producing more. I don't really, it's so hard to do that sometimes. So I really don't know.
I mean, I think that's why it has to be a look at all three of the F's, right? The feel, the film. You can't just look at the facts of the situation. If the facts are 25 minutes and X amount of points, then you need to take that with some context, right? Like, is he a product of players getting hurt or injured and he's just getting more playing time? Is his team Drabins and they scored 10 points in the game? You know what I'm saying? So like it has to be the three F's have to be evaluated. The feel and the film and the facts all have to be evaluated. That's my take.
Okay, because I try to guard against that, and just knowing that from a number standpoint, that's why I go to like percentages with things, because from a number standpoint, if you play more, you have the opportunity to do more.
Yeah.
If your team scores a lot, if your team averages 90 points a game, your 15 points per game matters less than if a team scores 60 points a game and you're scoring 15 points a game, you know? So, you know, always wonder about that part of the conversation, because, yeah, a kid is probably getting better, especially in high school, because they're getting older and they're so young that they're definitely getting better. You can't really get worse at that point. So, you know, what are the things that people should be looking for to know that they're getting better, besides the fact that, oh, I averaged 4 last year, or I played 10 minutes last year and now I play 25 minutes. You know, it's a slippery slope to really think about.
I think a great question to ask you right now as a coach, especially as a coach. All right. Especially in the situation that we have now with the Roni. You can't, it's limited to get out to gyms and things like that. And it makes it extra difficult to recruit, because high schools aren't having a normal basketball season the way that they've had every other year besides this. So when you're recruiting, what are you looking at? What are you putting emphasis on? The numbers, the film? What do you look at to say this kid is ready?
As far as basketball goes, because obviously there's other aspects, but
basketball.
We're in the, and I say this all the time, we're in the information gathering business. We have to gather as much information as we possibly can. And maybe sometimes that's a fault of mine, because sometimes it's clear as day, but we have to navigate through so many things. So my comfort level, me personally, is seeing a kid or having guys on my staff see kids in person multiple times in different settings. Ideally, without the Rona, seeing a kid on his AAU team, seeing a kid on his high school team, because he may play 2 different roles. And how does he handle those roles? And how does his game morph? How does his body language change? But to me, I don't like watching highlight tapes, because to me, you can only see if like a kid is much better than your level, and you're never going to get them. It's hard to really figure out like how good a kid is. Yeah, you can look at things like the way they shoot, or like I've said before, if a kid shoots from deep, like, oh, he consistently can shoot from deep, that's something to see. There are things you could tell from a highlight tape, but my comfort level is seeing somebody in person, or trying to see them, at least if it's not in person, trying to watch them play and different things all the time. And one thing I take from when I declared for the draft, my junior year of college, they asked Coach Petoza for 4 game films. This is before Synergy and everything. 2 good games and 2 bad games, and they wanted me to pick them. And I thought it was like this psychological exercise, because it's like, yo, this NBA team is about to evaluate you. Why in the world would you send a game where you didn't play that well, right? Like, why would you do that? But I picked 2 games that I didn't feel like I played well at all, my 2 worst games, and then 2 games where I felt like I clearly played really well. And I like to see when kids play really poorly. I love to see that, especially on the AAU circuit, because how are they bouncing back? If they're a scorer and they got locked up or they didn't shoot that well the game before, are they going to be shy to pull the trigger in the next game? Are they going to pull the trigger too much because they're pressing? You know, because these are real life dynamics that you have to deal with once they get to campus. Are they just comfortable? Are kids comfortable with getting 21 game, and then the next game, like they're running these crazy defensive schemes and just not shooting that much because it's going to help them win? You know, those things are really important. You can't really tell from clips and stuff. You can only tell ability. And honestly, a lot of people have ability, so it's hard to differentiate that. But I like to see guys in person. I don't like to see them. There's only so many things you could evaluate from them doing 1-on-0, you know, in a workout. You know, I want to see how they interact in different settings as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, I was just gonna say my final thought. I know we kind of like pivoted away from trying to actually answer the question, but The way if you're a trainer, because I feel like if you're a coach, you have much more access to see if your kid is getting better or not, because you see them actually playing basketball, not in a 1-on-0 or 1-on-1 small group setting. If you train somebody and you want to know if your kid is getting better, go watch them friggin' play, because there's a bunch of kids that are nice 1-on-1. Your kid could be nice 1-on-1, and they could literally just have no idea how to play 5-on-5 basketball. What being good at 1-on-1 helps, but go watch your kid play, because then that helps you build a training program around what they need.
I actually think parents should pay trainers to show up to the game, because it may allow them to not sacrifice their time in the gym or losing money because it's a business to show up to a game. I'm not saying an exorbitant amount, but maybe the same amount as a session, and to show up, because I think
definitely as valuable.
It's valuable in the short term, and I think it's valuable in the long term, because I don't understand how you can long-term train somebody and never see them playing a basketball game. Like, what? I don't understand. We work on all these things. Why do you get in the game and you don't do any of it? And maybe there's dynamics on the team. Maybe there's psychological dynamics that you also have to be able to work on while you're working out. Like you said, the hard skills and the soft skills. So I know that's ideal, and it's not always best. Kids are playing all the time. How are you going to get and watch these kids? But I love when I see trainers in the gym, and they're just like, hey, either I'm just supporting this kid, he's part of my program, or he comes, or, just really trying to get a feel for something, because parents walk in and go, he needs to work on his drives to the basket, because he's not doing his drives to the basket that well. So he really needs to work on his drives to the basket. And then you go, and then every team is playing a 2-1-2 packed in under the free throw line. It's like, boy's never going to drive to the basket with 5 people plus the 2 refs in the paint. Like, he needs to work on his Jimbo.
Everybody is at the basket. You should not go to the
Everybody
basket.
there. Snack stand there. Little kids running around who played 5 hours ago there. Everybody's there trying to stop him.
Yeah, but I think that just about answered the Rich's question. Shout out to Rich, man.
Big shout
friend
out.
Of the pod.
Gym is life.
Rich_Gym is life. Go. I don't know if he wants followers off this, but we're gonna try to promote him. Appreciate you for that question. If you guys have any questions you want to hear us answer, just DM us. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out if it's worthy or not to bring up, but we appreciate
real quick before we end. I'm sorry to end your little spiel. I know you're the host, but I just want to let y'all know, for anybody who got jokes, man, I got this hoodie on, man. I've had a haircut in like 5 weeks. My barber is MIA, but I'm going to start embracing this, baby. You know why? Because Jimmy Butler led the Heat to the promised land, not the super duper promised land, but to the promised land with a similar cut. And I am carrying Harry and Steve to the promised land with this podcast. So I need to just shut up and just embrace the fact that I don't have a cut. And me and Jimmy, even though he just cut the rock, me and Jimmy, I understand it. I feel you, Jimmy. I am embracing the Jimmy Butler on this podcast, and I am putting the team on my back, though.
I shouldn't have let you interrupt me.
Your mustache look more like Jimmy Butler than your hair.
You look more like Kemba than Jimmy, but either way, that's it for episode 8, and we'll see you guys next episode.